seamless experience of your travel. So he's at the leadership position of Digi Yatra Foundation, making sure all the airports becomes much more seamless. Facial recognition technology becomes more important. He used to lead the innovation lab in Bangalore International Airport. And I'm telling you frankly, Bangalore International Airport is one of the most technology savvy airports in India. And all three of you, thanks for joining for the webinar. Anything you want to say as a word to audience before we start the question? Over to you, all of you. I think Abhishek, if you want, I have to start with, because I mean the rank is that way. So.
No, nothing like that. I think the only thing I would say, good morning, everyone. And first of all, thanks for whosoever have joined over on a Saturday morning, which is, I know, is a weekend for everyone. And given in Delhi, Friday was also a virtual off. So thanks to it. So look forward to this interesting discussion, particularly with Akhilesh and Suresh there as well. So thanks again for organizing this, Akhil. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Please.
Yeah. I mean, warm welcome to the people. I can see around 35 participants are there. That's a big number considering what Abhishek just mentioned. Saturday morning, that too, G20 going on, live telecast is there. So that's fantastic, good, and I hope to have a good interactive session along with Suresh.
Sir, in the streaming platform, it is currently 500. So the registered, you only see the registered candidate as 30.
Oh, that's fun. Good to correct that. Very good.
So, Mr. Suresh, over to you. Anything you want to start?
This is really interesting, and thank you, Akhil, for actually allowing us to be a part of this panel discussion. I would be happy, and I hope that the audience goes back home with a lot of information which is relevant to today's world.
Sure, sir. Sure. So let me start my first question to all of you, and I think I'll start because as an introduction perspective. So I will start with Abhishek, then I will go to Akhilesh sir and to Suresh sir, at least for the first question, and then we'll keep changing the track. So looking at from the last 15 years, let me take it the last 15 years. The last 15 years, if you look at the business landscape, for the 10 years, I would say it was much more stable. We know what kind of predictable technologies are going to come, what is the growth rate. I mean, look at from this, Suresh, so you may be knowing that kind of forecast for the airport which came out, kind of passenger forecast, the kind of technology will come out. And same goes to telecommunication, Abhishek sir. We were sitting here. The way in 2008 to 2010, 11, the telecom technologies will be looking after and all those things were happening. We realized that 2-3 things will be very important. First of all, maybe the cloud is going to be a bigger chunk, which is true also. That's how Microsoft Azure and everything became big thing. And we also realized digitalization is something which will come anyway. It is going to come in what form or what we don't know, but at least digitalization is going to be a very crucial part of all the industry looking at it. And last, everybody was talking about synergy in the sense amalgamation of all the technology, especially telecommunication with other technologies. This is the talk of the town in the 2008 to 2012, 13, 14. That was the era when Apple came out with smartphone and other things, and the future looked very different from what exactly had happened today. Now switching gears to 2018-19. First of all, I want to hats off to the Bangalore airport. Your face being a passport. That's the quote which they said in 2017 in TEDx, if I'm not wrong. I remember that thing.
Yeah.
And somehow it became a crucial thing in the COVID. I don't know how I don't think you have predicted COVID, but at least you realize that the uncertainty is going to happen and the things will be different, and the bet became right. But coming to the point, none of the industries, to be very frank, really realize that work from home will become not an option, but it will become a part of the culture of the ecosystem. Nobody realizes the fact that Zoom, in which we are talking right now, can become a pure important part of your meetings in the last 3-4 years. How many Zoom meetings you might have done, or Microsoft Team meetings you might have done? You not even remember the numbers. But if you look at before 2018, it was an option. It's not like it was happening every single day. It was an option. And I remember one quote I don't want to name the company here, but the report which says that online, the meeting applications may have a future for some time, but may not go for a long way. That was the bet which they said. I don't want to name the company, please. But I don't know, they are not wrong. I mean, that's how the people thought of. And the COVID hit us. And first of all, I don't want to say that whether virtual meeting and virtualization becomes a part of it. It's a norm now. No, I don't want to change, say yes or no. It's a norm. But all of a sudden, even the business life cycles have changed after that. I mean, if you look at the last 4 years, I don't know how many times we have bet in each technologies. I remember 2019 cryptocurrency and blockchain was like the talk of the town, which is still a good technology. I'm not denying that fact. It really took the roof in 2020, 21, and all of a sudden it crashed. We don't know how it happened. And Metaverse came out, and everybody started putting money in Metaverse. In December 2021, when ChatGPT was unveiled in front of people, somehow that also got shelved. I mean, not shelved, I would say, but the hype has gone down. And now the era of AI happened. Now AI, you have a generative AI coming in, another AI is coming in, and the whole future looks very hopeful, uncertain, unpredictable, but hopeful. I mean, we all know this is not going to be good, but we actually don't know how the frame is going to be. I mean, I really, we don't know. I mean, look at I want to short it this way. If you look at the 2G era or 3G era or 4G era, the frame looks much more aligned. I mean, we know exactly, this is the way things are going to be. I really bet very few people know exactly how things are going to be in the next 6 months or 7 months, for that matter, the way things are happening. With this context in mind, let me start with Mr. Abhishek. Abhishek, what is your view of the new technological landscape coming in? You have been consulting in the last 20 years. You may have a tough time consulting clients. I mean, how to convince them exactly what is going to happen. Yeah, over to you, sir.
So thanks again, Akhil, and thanks for an interesting question, right? And you raise a very valid point, right? And last 15 years, I think, is the perfect time period, right? Because in 2007, we all remember Steve Jobs' famous speech, right? Where he repeated phone, email, iPod, phone, email, iPod. He kept on repeating that, and that became a buzzword in that sense. So I think that's where the cycles have begun to shorten. And obviously, everyone spoke about digitalization, which was always a theme, but there were always challenges. And COVID actually has accelerated that theme, right? What we are doing today is just one example. There are multiple other examples of digital interventions coming into place, organizations accelerating their digital transformation life cycles, a lot of e-enabled, internet-enabled things coming into place as well. Now, in terms of emerging technologies, I think emerging technologies, obviously the cycle is reducing. Earlier, we used to have longer cycles. Now the cycles are reducing. Whether we look at AI, metaverse, Web3 is another one. There was a lot of money. If you had a Web3 enabled startup, you were getting huge money, say 2-3 years back. Now AI is that buzzword which is happening, and VCs, PE funds are investing in them extensively as we speak, right? So my view is that that emerging technologies follow the same cycle which happened to other technologies. Obviously, the time span of that would be lesser, right? So what we would see is an initial hoopla, where there will be a lot of buzz, lot of noise, lot of investments coming into place. And then what we will see is a period of suspicion. So say, for example, you spoke about metaverse, right? Because some of the use cases metaverse had around digital twins, B2B, B2C, etc., are evolving at this point of time, but are not seeing that much of commercial traction as we speak. So we will go through an initial cycle of hype, then it slightly dies down and everyone has question marks like what is happening with cryptocurrency, etc. And then that will mature. There will be innovations coming into play, which will stabilize it, mature it, and then it will pick up again. I think we live in interesting times. I think out of all of these emerging technologies, AI is the most, what we can say, and as recently someone said, we live in the age of AI, right? And AI will have much more far-reaching impacts, etc., that we would see. Obviously, it will work in conjunction with other emerging technologies like metaverse, etc., which would play out and which would drive this, we can say, the next generation of whatever we can say, digital transformation, technology transformation that we are looking into play. And there will be new technologies emerging as well. How, say, for example, the research which is going around in quantum computing domain, how will that impact? How will that come into play? So some of these technologies will die down, but I think most of these technologies are here to stay. They will change the role that people play, organizations play, the new skill sets that will come into play, etc. So just to give you a small example, right? And I'm taking a very long back example, right? When initially there used to be silent movies, right? And silent movies had different set of skills, etc. Then there was a fundamental change. Talkies came in, and it changed the way we looked at entertainment industry, right? It created new skills, new horizons, new revenue models, new generation, etc. Similarly, what streaming has done now. So what I see is that these emerging technologies are part of the trend of human civilization, maybe over 400, 500 years. We keep on inventing new things, etc. Only the pace has accelerated significantly. What used to happen earlier in 3-4 years will now happen in 12 months. Obviously, these technologies will go through their cycle: hype, then caution, and then emergence, and then they will take it forward from there. So we live in exciting times. I think most of the young people will have both challenges and opportunities. The challenge is that they will have to continuously evolve. Maybe we were lucky that our careers were stable for at least initial 7-8 years. They are evolving right now as well. But opportunities as well, what they can do, what they can achieve, how they can enhance their skills is tremendous at this point of time. So this is my view, and let's hear from other panels and take it forward.
Sure. So before I switch to Akhilesh, sir, I want to tell the audience, if you have any questions, you can write in Q&A. There are certain audience who are raising hands, and the speakers will give the answers once they're in the concluding remark time. Okay. So over to Akhilesh, sir. So what is your take, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Akhil. Very well. The opening remarks given by Abhishek, that it poses both opportunities and the challenges. We are in a digital era, and the things has to be looked from a different lens. We cannot see the things in today's world, with the younger generation who are in a digital age, born in a digital age, I must say. The perspective is changed. For example, just see it's happening everywhere. Since I mostly advise the government, let me just give a figure. Day before yesterday, there was a World Bank report which said India has been able to reach up to the 70%, 80% population in an economic way to remove the disparity just in a span of 6 years. Otherwise, it could have taken 47 years. The thing which could have been done in half a century has been done in less than a decade. That's the power of digital era. So and when it can happen in a government setup, where generally, there are a watertight compartment, a lot of rule sets are there, where policies are there because it's public money, other legal issues and challenges are there. But even when government can do shorten a benefit through digital things by almost 40 years, 4 decades, that's itself says how challenging is the new age is going to become. Another interesting thing which you said about the I will relate it to a slightly different thing, the human resilience. During the COVID, suddenly you find everybody switched to the digital mode. Be a 3-year-old child who is going to attending a kinder school on Zoom or other digital platform, to a 84-year-old grandmom who is also equally equipped and talking to their family members on a Zoom very quickly. I saw it when I was implementing fast track program at NHAI. I must say that we had been pushing this program since quite some time, but the COVID came as a blessing in disguise, though it was a bad. But then it forced people not to roll down their window. Nobody wanted to exchange currency note, and due to fear of contamination. So the fast-tag, which suddenly became a super hit, and we could meet out the supply challenges and other operational issues. That was our job to handle it, and it became instant success. In 6 month time, we rose from 30-year penetration, which we could achieve in 2 years, to 97% in just 100 or 120 days only. So that's kind of, so this I relate to the human resilience, because so now the another article I was just going through, which says the things are shortening. I mean, the evolution is also getting faster with the advent of AI and the technology. In future, probably evolution pace will come down. The next generation will be much smarter than what. So we used to take 100 years to bring some change in the DNA. Probably AI may change it in a much faster way. The generation after this maybe having a different paradigm of thinking. But let's talk right now how we are going to cope up with what skill sets are required, how we are going to take it forward. So my take on this should be we have to be on a continuous learning mode. The time has gone that we have learned something and now we can relax and see, yeah, that's fine. You take it, anything can evolve continuously, because getting outdated is a very short span. Your knowledge will be totally useless maybe after 2 years, and you won't find any relevance in the current setup. So continuous learning is one of the very important thing. Understanding about the technologies, as in your opening remarks you said, not every technology is as useful as it is hyped. Many technologies fail. For example, when I was implementing doing the digitization of NHAI, in infrastructure, there are many technologies which keeps on coming, the project management, IoT, drone, so many things. But then their impact has to be assessed, which is going to be really useful and which is going to give the real value to the stakeholders immediately. And then that has to be picked up. So the people has to keep on evaluating with the context, which is developing, evolving continuously, to select which is going to be the best technology or most impactful. Third, we have to know the collaboration. There is a time of actually collaboration, and here I always quote our Prime Minister's word that this is a time of age of collaboration. You cannot devise everything, you can't learn every knowledge because the time span is very short. In a year, technology is switching to another. So you have to find out the people. You have to rather have a catalog in mind, an index for which thing where I'm going to approach and collaborate with that, instead of learning everything new and becoming master within a short span when it is changing. This is very, very important thing. So collaboration is going to be a key. And lastly, I would say the ethics and responsibility. Many technologies like AI, this can be misused in a different way. Already it is being to spread a lot of misinformation. You can misuse it. And to elaborate, the people are aware. So here a sense of responsibility to the businesses has to come in. They have to think that the responsibility has to evolve. And I don't see there's no structure around it. The morality is nowadays, I will say, is also evolving that way. But then there has to be a regulatory framework, and the ethics or the responsibility with respect to use of technology must come. That should also be one of the key factors. I think we will be discussing more when Q&A.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Akhilesh sir. So over to you, Suresh sir. I mean, you have seen the view of the private sector. You have also seen the view of partially a public sector. I mean, the person who has worked in government, and your amalgamation of both of them.
Yeah. I think it's good that I'm speaking after both Abhishek and Akhilesh, and this is very interesting, right? In the sense, the government has done its part, I would say. Like for example, if you look at India Stack, that's the fundamental building block, right? I mean, for us to be able to do anything, I think that India Stack digital public infrastructure, which has been created, has helped, right? I mean, and people are building solutions on top of it. Like Digi Yatra, for example, is something which we have built on Aadhaar and DigiLocker, right? So this is something which we are also doing. But coming back to the point that you mentioned. So today I feel that it's the time of shorter life cycles from a problem statement to outcome. So I think agility and the role that low code, no code will play, right? I mean, people come up with problem statements, and there is this. urgent or sort of a tearing hurry to actually come to a solution. So there are these, I would say, interventions, or there are these possibilities using low code, no code, and AI/ML, of course, to derive solutions which are more impactful, right? And obviously, I think the speakers before me also mentioned that today is the world of cloud collaboration and a connected world. But I would like to add one thing, which is customer experience. I think customer centricity is the most important aspect. I think so long as we are focused on that, right? And I'll go back to what Akhilesh said, right? Of course, there was a constraint that COVID put on us, and due to which FASTag adoption improved. But if you look at it from a customer experience perspective, I mean, how better can it get, right? I mean, I'm just driving my car and then I just continue to drive my car, right? And one fine day, we'll also have that kind of an experience where there will be no barriers at the toll gates. You will just be crossing the toll gate, and I mean, that would be the aspect of customer experience. And so long as we start to think from customers' perspective and build solutions, I think we are going to be there in terms of, solutions being really meaningful to the users.
So, I mean, great points, Suresh. So, I mean, let me take from what you said right now. Customer experience is what you said right now. So, Abhishek, I mean, let me start with you on this question. Look at from the point of view what happened in the 90s and 2000s. When we talk about technologies, like for example, the biggest technology in the late 90s to early 2000s, the internet. Okay, so the big picture. But to be very frank, companies never talked about internet. They talked about the product of the internet. I mean, in the sense, when we talk about Facebook, we have Google, we have search engines, we have social networking, all those things. Last 4 years, if you look at it very carefully, don't you think there's an irony here that we are not much talking about the product which is addressing the customer problem, and the technology becomes a more important point? What is the function the technology plays? And somehow, maybe because of which there's a challenge of whether the technology will evolve or not, and how it's going to be there. Because ultimately, I may be wrong. You can correct me. That it is a customer and the market decides the future of a technology at the end of the day. I mean, whether the market likes it, satisfies its needs. I mean, it's like 4G and 5G. The reason it is flourishing is up to a certain extent is because OTT is also developed the same time. I mean, people want to really consume it from there. I mean, just because having 4G is not going to address anything. I mean, that's not the way it became more demanded. But we really see the last 4 years, these technologies, all the things are coming up, all of them has potential. But do you really feel, I mean, somewhere we are missing the Googles, the Facebooks of this time to come up with something? I mean, Digi is a very good crucial example. I agree. I'm totally getting example. But I mean, it has certain aspect. It has not a wider, I mean, it's not a wider audience aspect. I mean, we are still missing us Facebooks to come or Google to come. So what is your view? I mean, maybe that's the reason why the uncertainties are much higher, because we don't see anything on the ground exactly how it's going to work out.
I think that's a brilliant question, right? And I think there are two aspects to it, right? And I interact with a lot of industry leaders, not only in the region but globally as well, and we see that day in day out as well, right? I think so. We have to distinguish between two things when we talk about these technologies. One is what is happening in media, how are some of the investing agencies reacting, and secondly, how are the business leaders seeing it? I think from the business leaders' point of view, I can assure you they are looking at use cases. And when I say use cases, they are obviously either consumer driven or enterprise driven, right? And they are looking at what ROI will it bring, how will what new revenue models will it create, how will it transform my business model, how will it get into new things, etc. I think obviously from a consumer point of view, we are talking about whether, as Suresh spoke about, as whether driverless cars, how will the experience improve, and that would remain very, very critical going forward. And there would has to be an associated ecosystem around it to enable that and drive that going forward. So I think what has happened in today's world is, as compared to the previous world, is, say for example, when BlackBerry came in, it became such a huge hit. And then obviously it died down once iPhone came in and it transformed the way we look at smartphones, etc. So I think the one key difference here is what you can say, the connected people, right? As we speak about each individual in this world. So just to give you statistics, an average person in Japan carries something like 85 devices. And in India, I think an average person would carry something like almost 15, 18 devices at this point of time, and everyone is connected, right? It's like an instant world, right? As a as a very leading industry call, it's an instant noodle world, right? There is an information in Facebook which flows everywhere. So I think the hype is mostly happening in what you can say in our social media channels, in our media, etc., which keep on talking about these technologies because they need that buzzword to speak about at this point of time. But in say hardcore business aspects, whether it's government, whether it's enterprises, whether it's emerging startups, etc., they are talking about hardcore return on these enterprise in these technologies. What could be the use cases? So, for example, how would AI impact in healthcare, which is a big use case being touted, which can be looked into it? How would it impact in, say, design industry, where it could have a significant impact going forward? How would it impact in, say, the way we analyze data, AI along with what you can say analytics? How will it play out, and how would it impact organizations going forward? And how do we create the next generation of organizations, right? So, for example, Microsoft is talking about a generative based organization going forward, right? And where analytics and AI play a key role. So I think that hype talking about these technologies is more happening at a what you can say at our social media discussion level, some at a media level where these technologies are hyped. But at the business levels, leaders are definitely looking at which use cases to go after, both for enterprise and B2B, how to look at it and going forward, how will it generate revenue for them. At the end of the day, say what we saw because of whatever happened, because of the money, the risk-free money was there. We saw a lot of investments coming into startups, etc. But now we are seeing is even in say we look at the Bay Area data, only the funding has reduced by almost 75%. So the funding is going down. I think the focus will, it's like the 2001 internet cycle, right? Where everything came in, internet was such a big boom, e-commerce was such a big thing, and then it collapsed. And then obviously the models emerged. Amazon is a very successful model. Flipkart, which is now owned by Walmart, was very successful. Netflix became very popular in that sense. So again, as I said, initial hype, then caution, and then we see the emergence of things. So I would say at the business leaders level, there is a conscious effort to derive what will be the value coming out of it. And you're right, 4G, I think the biggest use case which it gave was democratization of video, right? Which led to flourishing of OTT. Even a person sitting in Bhagalpur, I'm just taking an example, can now watch IPL match where Dhoni is batting in the last over of IPL clearly and see, and it's a wonderful use case, and that's where it drives those attention, etc. So I think all these emerging technologies have huge potential. Some of these will create use cases either for consumers or for enterprises, because I think what we have to take into account, B2B is a very big play, and as Suresh and Akhilesh spoke about, B2G is a very big play as well, which because governments have that power, have that infrastructure. Say, for example, what Indian government has done over the last 6 years is amazing, right? The amount of payment platforms they have created, the amount of digital enablement that they have created is amazing, right? Singapore is another example where the ease with which everything gets done is amazing in that particular sense. So B2G will be very critical. And obviously, at the end of the day, the consumer centricity, consumer applications would make would make or break the technology, right? How do we impact the day-to-day life of our consumers, etc.? How do we improve it? How do we take it forward from there? And I agree with Suresh. I think customer experience is the key, right? That would drive which of these technologies deliver value to them and deliver. So, say for example, I again come back to BlackBerry, right? BlackBerry was a craze because within the technology frames of that point of time, it was able to deliver that seamless email experience that everyone wanted. Then Apple came in and it expanded the entire universe, and then other smartphones came in at that point of time. So within the technology frameworks, what is possible today, organizations will have to innovate and see how best they can deliver value to customers. So, for example, when AI talks about healthcare, how will it get those insights? How will those get delivered to your customer in a very seamless, if I can use that word, idiot-free manner? How will then he get the return out of it? How will then he drive it and take it forward in that sense? So you're completely right. I think in the last 4 years, because of whatever happened of COVID, a lot of free money came in, a lot of investments then got pumped into the startups. There was a little bit of hype, hoopla around it, which is now, I think, moderating. What we are seeing is much more reasonable thinking, much more reasonable investments. And that's what we will see as far as these technologies are concerned as well. And all business leaders, whether, say, for example, you to talk to the CEOs in North America or in Europe or in Asia Pac or in India, they are talking about what will this technology finally give me as a return, right? It's we can keep on pumping the money, but if it does not deliver the use cases which are required to either to enterprises or to consumers or to governments, the technology will fail eventually. It will not survive the test of the time. Having said that, I think AI has a huge potential, right? I think most of the reports are talking about 15-16 trillion dollar impact by 2030. I think there are debates upon that number, how much of that is real, etc. But that remains the key out there. And for countries like India, it is an opportunity to leapfrog, right? I think, as Akhilesh mentioned, that 4 decades into 6 years, I think it gives an opportunity to what we call as global south or emerging countries to leapfrog that value chain, right? Say, for example, like India didn't have that fixed line penetration and jumped directly into that mobile revolution. And the amount of data consumed by India is one of the highest. We are one of the highest consumers of Facebook or Instagram as we speak. So I think India provides that opportunity. These technologies provide opportunities to emerging economies like India and dominant economies like India to fast grow and leapfrog into a different age and different scenario in that sense. So again, I think I definitely see these are interesting times, and particularly the time is with India at this point of time, right? With the amount of human capital we have, obviously we need to make investments in how we do research around these technologies. How do we develop use cases around this technology? I think you would have heard earlier and now as well the focus on use cases. When I say use cases, is what are the various ways to what are the various outcomes that can come out of these technologies? How can they impact enterprises, consumers, and governments, and the lives of then the ordinary people at the end of the day, so as to generate value, revenue models, and profitability and valuations for various investors, enterprises, and the ecosystem as large. And then this should help generate new set of skills, new growth elements for our people, for our employees, for our customers, etc., that we can deliver. So I think that's what I see. I think in the end, I would just say one line. I think business leaders are very conscious of the value use cases they can deliver. So they are talking about what sort of products they can launch, what sort of services they can launch, what sort of value they can deliver. I think this more talk about technologies is more, say, maybe media driven. Obviously, these days funding also tends to get, say, for example, Web3 is a buzzword, metaverse is a buzzword. These days, every PE VC fund is willing to fund AI-related organizations. So there is a VC fund in Europe who's only funding AI-related organizations, and it is willing to give. I'm not naming them, but they are willing to give funds if there is a team for 4 people, one from Microsoft, one from Google, one from Amazon, and one from some other player, even if they don't have ideas. So those sort of rationalization will come in, and we will see more and more focus on business models, products, services, etc. So back to you.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's a good point you have said, right? That business model is what the key at the end of the day. And the customer, what Suresh has also agreed and you have agreed, the customer is there, that is key. So let me go to Akhilesh, sir. Akhilesh, the same point is the same question, but in a perspective of the government. I mean, government want to adopt technologies, no doubt. I mean, you are already advising Uttarakhand government, other governments, and Niti Aayog as well. So my point here is how the challenges overcome by the government authorities. I mean, like the companies. I mean, they can still have a risk of TK. You can have an investment and it doesn't work out. Let's see to the next one. I mean, they cannot do it every time, but still they have a risk appetite. I mean, government cannot do that. I mean, so how this challenge is being discussed in the government fraternity? How to make sure which to bet, which not to bet, which entrepreneurs? I mean, how the startups has to be evaluated, and so on and so forth. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Akhil. Considering the decision-making process in government is a little lengthy and more cumbersome than in a corporate or the private or a startup, there is probably system is evolving. It has been challenged, but I must be thankful to the current government setup. They are very proactive. For example, I will just quote about the UPI. The UPI, in fact, when we were developing the platform FASTag, that time we tried a model. There will be a single acquirer and single issuer. And ICICI Bank was had that time. They were supposed to deliver the FASTag to the every vehicle, connect it to the system, and then when the vehicle goes at the toll plaza, that will be the merchant bank also. We call it acquirer bank. So, but this concept failed because for a country of the size of India with densely populated and the diversity, you can't bank on a single bank to deliver more than 60 million FASTag to the vehicles and then manage the entire system. That's not going. So then we came up with an idea where we have a multi-issuer, multi-acquirer kind of thing. More banks on the merchant side more, and they all connected through a platform. And then the concept of this UPI came. So when we were developing this, this idea came that why if this money can be transferred from one issuer bank via FASTag to the other account, other than this FASTag, can there be another system? And then by the time the system was getting matured with the Aadhaar and your mobile app, mobile things, and that became a game changer. And you see the adaptability in next just 4 or 5 years, the UPI, 10 billion transactions were done in August. That's a mind-boggling number. And you go to even remotest village in India, any place, the fruit or vegetable vendor, he or she is collecting, having a QR code to collect the money for 5 rupees to, whatever you purchase at a small vendor's place. So that's the, so people are ready. So the government has understood this philosophy that people, so what Abhishek and Suresh has earlier said, the policies or any business decision policies has to be actually centered to the people, the customer. The customer can be a citizen whom government is providing some service, or he can be a buyer or a client or a customer, depending on the business or the consultancy. But now that big focus has, they are in the limelight. Individual, and I'm sure with IPv6 coming up, probably every customer is going to become a platform kind of himself. You don't require any platform to go. It's going to be a peer-to-peer. So government has realized this, and the success of few programs like FASTag, UPI gave a good moral boost to the government policy makers. Earlier, there used to be some bottlenecks in taking the decision and going, so that I used to call that time as a digital dinosaurs. So it's not that it was only in the government. The digital dinosaurs were in the corporate also. When were we supposed to advise the construction companies or the big company that you should use the softwares to monitor such a big project you are having, use drone, use LiDAR and other technology thing. So the youngster used to be with us, but the top management guys who is ultimately, they didn't have seen those technologies. So they used to put a foot down, and same was applicable everywhere. But now the current system, the younger generation has come up. You see the most of the decision makers are relatively young in the government also, right? And they all tech savvy, majority of them. And the push from the top is the prime minister himself keep on tweeting. You see the things which is happening, the things are moving. So these created an environment in the government as well as citizens. Uttarakhand, you mentioned, we had created a service. I'll take just 30 more seconds to tell about that also to our audience. That's called Apuni Sarkar, and the service is so handy for the citizens. The citizen need not to go anywhere to any government office. From their home, they can simply go to the Apni Sarkar portal, ask for any service, 600-700 services listed over there, and it will be delivered to their home, or if it is available digitally, to their portal itself. They will get a notification. They can even track who is holding it, where it is lying, and all those things. And this was recently awarded as one of the best citizen service as well. But then not only this putting an AI layer, we are also seeing if a particular kind of thing that the trends are being analyzed. If a lot of people are asking for medical services, then something is wrong going into that area, and the government should take a preventive action to check what's going wrong. If a child birth certificate has been taken by a person and the child was 3 years old, and now 2 years after, the parents are getting a notification proactively from the government that your child is likely to be 5 years. In July, a lot of parents got it. And these are the school nearby your area you should look for. So these are the proactive citizens, and that's liked by the people. 10 more seconds. The people, the villagers who were in the remote place, there is no internet connectivity and all. The question came how they are going to be provided these services. For them, we had created a Swiggy kind of service. They just dial a number. A person goes after taking an appointment with a laptop on his backpack to their house, opens it in front of him, puts the data and submits it, and then services are delivered. So these are the things happening, and in fact, they are being appreciated by people, encouraging government to do more and more on that. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Akhilesh. So before going to Mr. Suresh, first of all, I really liked the point you have said. So, I mean, you have actually proved the point that ultimately how simple the technology is. Customer is the end of the day. I mean, at the end of the day, if it solves the customer problem, everything perfectly looks fine. I mean, with your example, I remembered the olden days when M-Pesa was a classic case studies of how the Kenya digital economy started. I mean, Abhishek may know, know it, how the telecom, I mean, it was a very great case study of M-Pesa, how it has been created. I mean, that also was a classic case of how simple technology was able to solve a crucial economical problem for Kenya. And same, I think, what Uttarakhand you have given example. So over to you, Suresh sir. I mean, you are in Digi Yatra at this moment, so I will switch two questions for you, so that question also belongs to Mr. Abhishek as well. Okay, the first question is obviously what others have said. So these technologies, how you're implementing, because the reason is because some may work, some may not work, some may look like a gimmick, some may not be having great use case. So how you decide that? Because you have been working in Bangalore airport and you are somebody who has used blockchain, AI, and metaverse. I can approve that. So and Digi Yatra became a classic example. So how you decide that? How your team decides that? First thing. Second, for both Abhishek and Suresh, I want to really ask this question, which I think Suresh can start and go over to Abhishek. How you are managing the culture and people to get dynamic in an organization? I mean, that's a very crucial part. I mean, please understand. I mean, as a leaders, we can keep betting, but on a bottom level, at the ground level, the operation level, the people always have a different idea exactly ab kya hoga, ab kya hoga, ab kya hoga. And the way news are happening all around the world, it's very difficult to manage the uncertainties, how to make it positive. So how you tackle that? Suresh sir, over to you, and then directly goes to Abhishek sir on this question.
I think the simplest and the easiest, I would say, part of this is if you are bold enough to try, right? I mean, there is something or some technology or some innovation which you feel can impact, the customer in a meaningful way. I think the best way is to try it out and then, get feedback directly from the customers. And this is precisely what we did in Digi Yatra. And of course, the metaverse was also an example where we wanted to test it out, right? I mean, unless and until you really test it out, you won't get the real feedback. So I think that would be the way to go forward. You have to test the stuff. It's okay to fail. And it's better that you try it out and fail fast also, so that you can further improve and then do some necessary changes that are required. So I think that would be my way of looking at it. And I forgot the second question that you asked. What was that?
So uncertainty and communication to people. I mean, in the sense, because you can keep betting, but there's a staff which is down there. Yeah.
True. So I think the biggest challenge of today's organization is there are so many opportunities that talent has, right? I mean, your employee has got multiple options today, right? So to keep them, how do you retain them, right? I mean, one of the things that I have actually been doing is when I select somebody for my organization, I am looking for somebody who's passionate, right, about the vision that we have. If you're selecting people who are passionate about your vision, then I think they will tend to be there through the thick and thin of the journey, uh, and that is something which is very important. The other thing that I felt is that you should obviously have to keep them motivated, right? I mean, you have to give them the opportunity to innovate. You have to give them the opportunity to try out new things, right? I mean, that is what is going to retain your talent. And I would just go around these three, points in trying to keep talent with us. Give them the opportunity to grow. Give them the opportunity to try new things, and of course, hire for passion. Skills, obviously, you can certainly, teach people. Yeah, I mean that is something which I would go by.
Sure, sir. Over to Abhishek on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe before I answer the second question, maybe I just my view on the first question, which Suresh also mentioned, right? I think the agile way of working is key, right? Learn fast, fail fast, and then learn fast. I think I completely agree on that. And the organizations which could do it are doing very well. Those who can't do it, as Akhilesh said, digital dinosaurs who can't do it are struggling in that sense. So I think the mantra is learn fast, fail fast, learn fast, and then keep on evolving all the time. So I agree with you. I think your second question, Akhil, is very, very relevant and pertinent, right? And maybe and this is the challenge of our times, right? And no longer are the days where you give one exam and say, if I look at my father's time, or you give one exam and you are set for life, right? So you give a civil services exam or a Indian engineering services exam or a bank exam, and you are set for life in that sense. I think those days are gone as we speak. I think this government had a very wonderful initiative where it got some joint secretaries from the industry, and those contributed, I think, in various ways to driving that and going forward. So I think this generation, I would say, faces much more challenges than the previous generations, if I can say so, because there are uncertainties, right? One day you are working on, say, I'm just giving a hypothetical example on a X technology, and then everyone says, this is not, there are no use cases, there is no viability for it, so let's shut it down. And all of them, at least in private sector in India or globally, what can happen is that team might be completely shut down. We see examples of startup founders who fire 1,000 people over an email in one day, right? So we have had those sort of scenarios as well. So I think the uncertainty for this generation is much, much higher. No one can deny that. And that's where our, say, working models have to change, right? People should be willing to look at, say, a gig-based economy, contract-based models, contingency-based employments, project-based employments will become much more and more relevant. And I think that's where maybe in our schools, colleges, universities, we should start teaching that those days of where you joined one job and stayed in that till your life ended, or changed 3-4 jobs, which is happening in my generation, where we change few jobs during our life period, is ending, and maybe there will be more, say, project-based jobs, etc. Having said that, there are, and as Suresh rightly said, and I completely agree with, 200% agree with him, passion. I think when you hire people, you look for passion. Are they interested about the project that you are doing, the vision that you have? Are they connecting to that? Are they looking to engage with you on that particular point and work with you through thick and thin? Because I think what is happening right now is we have a 6 months positive cycle and 6 months negative cycle. So the cycles are shorter in that sense, right? And the business paradigms, business perspectives change very, very frequently. So we would need that. So I think passion is very key. Look for people who are passionate. And I think learning is very key, right? I think the employees of this generation will need to be willing to learn newer ideas, newer technologies, newer concepts, and that is applicable to us as well, right? We need to, even at our stage in life, we need to learn new technologies, learn new ideas, and adapt them to our working. How do we change our roles? How do we get along with it as well, right? Even if you look at into the senior levels, even the CEO roles are changing, right? Earlier, CEO was focused only on looking at his revenue cost, which is still the focus, but now he has to look at the impact of various technologies coming in. He is becoming a de facto CIO, if I can say in that sense. He's looking at how does his customer react, how does it work, how does he go about it. So I think the way people work in organizations will change. There will be, I sincerely believe that there will be more project-based roles, and that's where we need to maybe in our universities, in our colleges, we need to tell people that the way we used to work in the past will not be the case going forward. The nature of jobs will change, and they will have to be more flexible, think on the feet and going forward. And also maybe some of our universities needs to have these, I think, which is happening, short-term courses where some of these new areas can be taught, where they can interact with likes of Suresh, Akhilesh, etc., who have worked in these fields, understand from them how to adopt these technologies into their day-to-day life, how they make business impact, etc. So some of those changes will have to be made, and obviously passion and ability to learn and evolve all the time will be very, very critical going forward. So that's where it is. I think it's a difficult question, Akhil, which you asked, and I think leaders across the world are grappling with this question: how to manage this aspect around emerging technologies, uncertainty, culture. Because the last point I would add is the age of people in organization. Right now, say for example, the average age of most organizations in the world is roughly around 35, 36, right? In India, it would be lower. It would be roughly around 30, 32. There are millennials who are very savvy with the technology. There are certain people who are on the business side, maybe in senior positions, slightly older in age. So we need to make sure that we give representation in boards, in key committees to some of these young people who are coming in, who understand this going forward, and create, and some of the people who are there for long, create some space for the young generation to feel empowered about the decisions which are being taken and how they're being taken forward. So these are some of my points.
Thank you so much, Abhishek sir. I mean, both Suresh sir and Abhishek sir, you have given a right podium here. So the concluding question, which is exactly with the sync of what exactly we have discussed at this moment. So I'll start with Akhilesh sir, because I think you have to have a meeting after this. So I mean, I'll start with Akhilesh on this. Two things on a short. First thing, where you see India in the next 5 years, especially today is a G20 time. I mean, we are sitting in a time when things are happening in a very vibrant way. Second question, aligned to it, what is the skill set you feel that the young generation who is seeing this channel from all around across the world, what kind of skill sets are required for them to prepare for the future?
Very good question, Akhil. Number one, I will say, what everybody says, the not only decade, the century belongs to India, and India is perfectly placed. G20 leadership you just mentioned is the starting point where people started. Actually, till now, it was all in hear and say, and people had certain perception based on some hearsay. But now the top leaders of the broadly whole world are in India since last 2 days, and they will be here, and they are going to carry the diversity, the way India is progressing. So, given that hands-on experience, you can say this is going to the launching pad for the global India, emerging India. A very good future. Second question, and of course, that this age is digitally driven, so a huge potential for digital technologies or the innovation things. And the technologies has to not only restrict or start finding that that certain sectors are there, fintech or manufacturing. The technology has to cut across all the sectors, be it even your tourism. There are plenty of applications there where it is helping us, be it logistic, anywhere. The technology is, I mean, it's a kind of a next kind of oxygen for the survival. It's going to be like that. So if you are out of technology, so now the next question you asked is, what is the takeaway for the young generation, which course they should pursue or what they should think through, which is going to be beneficial in the future? I will say have two things in your mind. Of course, learn the best available technologies which you like based on your temperament and your nature, or with your choice. Don't get carried away by people saying that IoT is doing good or blockchain or AI. It's your passion which drives you. Take it, but try to do that thing in a different way. You can find it's a changing word. Anything you do with a passion is going to make impact. Believe you me, technology is just an enabler. It's going to help you in that way, and it will be. Keep your mind flexible. Do not look what Abhishek said, very valid point, that do not get complacent or think that you got a job, now your future is secure. The human race is not meant for that. Even this is only a few centuries old when we started settling and getting relaxed, that we hold a house, we got a job. Earlier, it were all hunter and gatherers. We used to, we do not know whether we'll end up in the day with some fruits or we'll get something to eat. So this is how, so enjoy the life, think through, follow the passion, whatever you like, study that. That's my take. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, Raj's last quote was really, really encouraging. So over to Suresh, sir, on this. So Suresh, sir, before I start, I also remember one of my HR, I was meeting on an HR roundtable, and they said that the first time in history, every 3 months we have a challenge to create the JD of the new candidates. What exactly is required for this kind of, what kind of skill set is required? Every time the operation manager are coming with a new skill to come out, and they have no clue exactly how to find the candidate and how to do the interview for it. Anyways, having to over to you, sir, on this. Exactly what you feel, where the India will be in the next 4 or 5 years. What is your view? And secondly, what are the skill set which the new generation requires? Over to you, sir.
So, if you have seen the various developments that we have already done, right, like the digital public infrastructure that we have built, it's an example of its kind across the world. And even the so-called first world countries are also trying to follow, what we have done. And this is something which I would say that, we've sort of begun to lead, I would say, uh, from the fundamental building blocks and then allowing. So somebody, I was having a chat with an industry colleague, and he asked me a question, how much time do you have in a day? So I said, yeah, I have like, a productive time of 8 hours, and sometimes I stretch, so maybe 12 to 16 hours in a day sometimes. So I said, yes. So that is the time that you have, and that's what you can contribute, right? And you can contribute only so much within that time. How about if you allow this ecosystem uh, and allow multiple players to contribute to your ecosystem, right? Then the number of players that are contributing to your ecosystem, I mean, it will be dependent on that much, right? I mean, there will be so many different people who will contribute. And then you will get hundreds of hours of innovation contributing on your ecosystem. So I think this is something which one of the examples that came up very recently is the ONDC ecosystem that is being created. So that's something which is going to be the next big thing, I would say. And coming back to in India, I think software, I think we are like almost there, right? But from a manufacturing electronics perspective, I think there is something which I feel we have some improvement in terms of having our own base, as a manufacturing in electronics. So that's, I think, something which in the next 5 years I think should pick up. And I think our government actually has done all the right things in setting up these building blocks. And to the talent today, I would just like to echo the same thing that Akhilesh said, right? I think passion is something, and trying to solve a real world use case, right? I mean, a problem that you see. If you're trying to solve a problem that you see, then I think you have got a market already. And it's not the technology that will drive adoption; it is the exact use case that you are trying to solve that will drive adoption. And there are so many, right? I mean, if you look at, for example, one of the things where there is a huge scope of improvement is the way we do sale of land, right, and transfer of land title. It is such a mess, right? I mean, we still have so much of scope for improvement, and that's where now what can be used, what kind of technologies can be used. I think all the technologies which are required to make this whole thing seamless is already there. So that could be one area of our development, right? And that's how I would say that you should try to approach on building or bringing in innovation.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Over to you, Abhishek, sir, on this question.
So I think, and maybe if you can repeat it, Akhil, I just...
Okay, so there are two sets. The first is where you look India in the next 3 to 4 years.
Okay, sure.
And the second thing is what the future leaders should look like. I mean, what is the skill set of the future generation coming up?
Perfect. So I think it's like cliche what I would say, that the future for India is very, very bright, right? I think we are what we can say in what we can say in that inflection point, we are poised for tremendous growth going forward. So I think India should continue to focus on where it is, on basically focusing on digital transformation, building more infra, which is very, very critical. I think building city level infra, building intercity level infra, building intra-city infra, which will be very, very important to make our cities best for our people to live in and best for people to work in. So say, for example, as a very senior CEO recently said, right, these days anyone can work from anyone. He can make an impact working in a small town in India and make an impact which is resonating across the globe. So it's very important to focus on within city level infrastructure going forward. So I think India is one of the very few select economies or countries in the world which has the right demographic dividend, right focus on technology, right policies, a right mix of finance, people capabilities, etc., to drive this next phase of growth and make this decade and this century its own going forward. So I think over the next 3-4 years, we would see India growing faster. We should be the third largest economy in the world, and we should look forward to what we are trying to achieve and what we are trying to do in that sense. I think the next question is interesting, right? And it's a very difficult question to answer as well. What should be the next future generation of leaders look like? And Howard had a very interesting paper on it, and it talks about 4 basic essence of the next future generation of leader. First, it talks about always learning, always evolving. So he said the next generation of leaders should have a mindset where he's always willing to learn, and say he should define what new thing I will learn in this day, in this week, in this month, in this quarter. So an always learning leader will be very, very important, very, very critical going forward, because the way it happens, the way it looks into it is very important. The second thing it talks about is, which Suresh also mentioned, is focusing on customer and what problem you are looking to solve, because that's very important. Because at the end of the day, we are looking to solve business problems which makes the lives of our customer better or our citizens better, etc. So I think focus on your customer, focus on the problem that you are looking to solve, because at times, as you rightly said, and one of your questions was, we get engrossed in that this is AI, let's do something, this is metaverse, let's do something, but what problem we are looking to solve. Third is obviously technology savvy, looking at technology innovations, looking at trends across the world, right? So it talks about understanding the technology music. So that's the word it uses. So what sort of technology will be the right technology to invest in, how to go about it, etc. And fourth, I think, which is very critical and which is linked to your culture point, is communicate. How do you communicate to your employees? In this world, we have a lot of channels of communication, but the effective communication has actually reduced. So how do you communicate to your people? How do you how do you reduce their uncertainties? I think one way to reduce uncertainties is to communicate with them, interact with them, engage with them, etc. So I think communication I think it was always important, and it will be more important that how do you communicate to your team members, your employees, etc. How do you make them feel comfortable? How do you align them to your vision? How do you drive that going forward? So in the end, I would just say that the key thing going forward would be how we as human beings, how we as team members, how we as employees, how we as leaders communicate and collaborate with each other. And that would make us much more impactful as organizations, as countries, as our teams, and as we look at it at a larger perspective. So that's how I mean.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, in a nutshell, it's an uncertain world, but I think the focus is to make sure that you should have passion, you should have focus on problem, and technology is just an enabler. I mean, that's a sentence I think all 3 of you have resonated. And keep evolving, keep learning. That's the main essence of being a good leader. So before I exit it, can I take 2 minutes of all of your time? Because there are Q&A, there are questions bombarded in Q&A. So if I can address some of them, that will be fine. I mean, just two minutes, that's all. So I'll ask one question, I think, is for, I think, Suresh, sir. So it's, do you think aviation will get affected by AI in terms of AI's airside operation? If yes, up to what extent?
Oh, to a large extent, I would say, right? I mean, there is still so much that can be done on the air side, because I think the efficiency on the air side is a direct, has a direct impact on the passenger experience, right? So, for example, a flight which turns around today in, say, 35 to 45 minutes, right? Can actually, if you shave off even 5 minutes to 7 minutes from each flight, I think the passenger, I would say, experience in terms of boarding becomes much faster, right? And there is so much of information that is available. Like I can give you one simple example. You got Delhi Airport, for example, which has got now 4 runways, right? And of course, every flight has got a stand which has been associated to it. So, how much time does it take to reach? What would be the nearest stand? How would be the resources, which will cater to that particular flight? I think AI has a lot of role to play, and it will certainly impact. Yes.
Okay, fair enough, sir. So, next question is for Akhilesh, sir. Akhilesh, sir, can you please share GOI's take on AI in India and how it plans to implement it within next 3 to 4 years? And that's the question. And what are the
Yeah.
risk it possesses as per the government assessment?
Perfect. In fact, there are two questions I can see in the Q&A. So I will answer very quickly both. First is on the challenges of FASTag implementation in shopping mall and parking area. This some Anirban has asked it. Anyway, we are already doing this. The FASTag has got a very big ecosystem. The tolling was one part of it, which is only on the highways. But the bigger part of this is the smart parking. Which is happening in now many cities where the parking in the mall or other places, even airports, etc., are being paid through FASTag. It's already taking place. Pilots, etc., has been very successful and it's scaling at a very fast pace. So there's no challenge. It's perfectly going ahead. More people are coming into it in the ecosystem. Second question, which Akhil asked, was the how government is taking AI and it's implementing. It's already on. Government is, in the process of taking the decisions, data-driven decision. They are making the policies data-driven policies. Uttarakhand, you may be aware, we are in a process of implementing Uttarakhand Data Lake, where the entire data are coming on a single platform, and then the top of it AI engine is helping the government to take a data-driven policy, make a data-driven policy and taking decisions. We did so in the NHAI as well. That's again in an evolving phase. So the AI has a tremendous potential for the government, and I think it's rather more apt for the government to use AI in various modes, in the logistics and many more, giving the citizen-centric services as well. Challenges, yes. The challenges are few, like the privacy, data privacy. This is a big issue. The current data privacy bill imposes that how the data is to be used. It cannot, because there is a risk how it can be. So that has to be thought for. The many think tanks are working on it. How we solve this problem of misuse of data or data privacy, because more we go, more susceptible we will be. So that's the only thing. Rest AI, the government is already very actively pushing this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Last question, and I think for all three of you, I'm concluding 3 or 4 questions together. What they're asking is what courses or skills, in the undergraduate level, they should be focusing on as a management student or a BTech student. I know you may not want to give a final one-word answer because that may be a bet, but at least in a conclusive way, which you can start. So Abhishek, sir, over to you first.
So I think that's a difficult question for me. I think focus on basic courses, I think should continue. I think there is a specialization level which is there in undergraduate courses which should be looked into it. I really like the way American universities structure some of these courses, right? So say, for example, you can focus on quantum computing, you can take a course on say history in say US and during the Civil War, and you can take another course around poetry. So I think the answer to that lies in your passion. So what you are passionate about, what you are looking for doing it. So for example, And I know at graduate level, your thinking is still evolving. So you might be still be thinking where my passion really lies. Some of us do understand where our passion lies, but some of us are still evolving in our thinking. So maybe first 1 or 2 years, take basic foundational courses which you set you up for the long terms, because at the end of the day, each technology, each business area, each profession is driven by certain basic dictats which exist and which we should all understand: mathematics, communication, discipline, commitment, etc. So maybe first 1 or 2 years, take some dedicated courses which exist, which lays the foundation for you going forward, and then try to understand more where your passion lies, what you would like to do in the long term, and then take that course and then take that course and then take it forward in that sense. I think the key word out here is, in our past life, I think we were always defined in terms of become a computer science engineer, or become a doctor, or become a cardiac surgeon, or focus on IAS exams, etc. I think the world has changed. There are a lot more opportunities in this world. So focus on your passion. And I know even I didn't knew in my undergraduate days what is my passion, and still I'm trying to figure out, right? So maybe the key thing is to understand where your passion lies, where you want to focus on, and maybe first 1 or 2 years, take courses which solidify you for the long term, and then take it forward from there. So that's how I will answer.
So thank you so much, sir. Suresh, sir, any
Yeah,
points
I
you want
think
to add on this?
I don't want to add to what Abhishek said, right? I mean, perfectly there, right, in terms of the fundamental building block. And if you are focused on one thing, which is customer centricity, and the other, which is that you can never stop learning, right? If you are going to retain these two aspects in your professional journey, then I think you are set, I would say. So don't ever think of anything other than customer experience. I mean, from that is where you should start to sort of think of new innovative ideas. And second is, of course, if you have not learned something, or if you have not upgraded yourself on a particular skill today, you don't have a problem, because you can anytime. There are so many online, I would say universities available, where you can actually update your skills, right? So today you don't have that problem. You don't have to really worry about those things.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think with this we can conclude the webinar, and I hope more. I mean, as a speakers, you all have had a decently good enough time with with the conversation, and really the whole conclusion was really good. I mean, the way the uncertainties were, what are the technological bet we had, how the focus to customer, and then last we concluded what is the skill set which is required. I mean, the whole this thing synced very well. Thank you so much, Suresh sir. Thank you so much, Abhishek sir, and thanks to all the audience and the
Thank
students who
you.
have joined. And it's still streaming on YouTube. So I'm also sharing the link to my host and panelists. You can even watch your recording here. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Thank you so much to everyone.